A recent trade deal with the United States will divert nearly £45 billion away from NHS healthcare and into pharmaceutical company profits, causing around 229,000 avoidable deaths. That is the finding of research by the British Medical Journal. If the effect on adult social care is added in, the number of avoidable deaths rises to 291,000, more than the total number of deaths attributed to COVID-19. 240,000 at the time, although The Guardian only suggests 137,000, possibly due to a different measurement regime. The decision to pay the extra money was political, so we should ask, why is Keir Starmer happy for so many people to die just to put a little extra profit in Big Pharma's pocket? The Guardian tells us Starmer caved in to demands by US President Donald Trump for more money in order to avoid higher tariffs on the UK drug exports into the States. Apparently the trade-off was that patients in England, why just England in a UK-US trade deal, would have access to potentially life-extending drugs that would otherwise be denied. The government has said the deal will cost only £1 billion extra between 2025 and 29, but has declined to publish its own impact assessment. The DHSC has said it does not recognise the 45 billion figure, which covers a 10-year period. This in itself is hard to justify. A trade agreement that alters NHS medicines pricing for a decade and potentially commits tens of billions of pounds of future expenditure should be subject to detailed parliamentary scrutiny before implementation. If the government genuinely believes the BMJ analysis is flawed, the obvious response would be to publish its own modelling and explain why. This is not happening. The costs will be borne by the Department of Health and Social Care, DHSC, which funds the NHS in England, and not the Treasury, implying that the health services in other UK countries won't get any benefit from a supposedly UK-wide trade deal. If that is true, then the government's claim that the deal improves patient access across the UK is overstated. It's true that the health service in Wales, for example, I know about this because it's where I live, sends patients to England for treatment that is not available there. But the NHS in Wales pays the English NHS for the service. Does that mean the devolved government will also have to pay higher prices, meaning the financial impact extends beyond England in a way that we have not been told? We have no indication that the government will somehow subsidise these costs. And these are all political choices. Labour ministers have decided to pay more for drugs, to make it unclear how those drugs will be used, and not to explain how this will affect NHS funding. The government could increase NHS funding to absorb the higher medicines bill. It could renegotiate the agreement, or it could accept reduced provision elsewhere. The research says if ministers have chosen the third option, these are the likely consequences. The UK has traditionally used the NHS's purchasing power to negotiate lower prices and to decide, through bodies such as the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, NICE, whether new medicines provide enough benefit to justify their cost. That system is explicitly designed to limit spending on treatments that do not represent good value for money. But the New Deal indicates that England's cost-effectiveness rules are being relaxed to approve more expensive drugs despite their higher cost. But more expensive medicines means fewer people will benefit, and funds must come from other NHS services to pay for them. And that means unnecessary deaths. Ministers seem to be knowingly adopting such a policy, while failing to justify their choices and refusing to mitigate the consequences. Crucially, it seems they are also refusing to take personal responsibility for any deaths that happen as a result of this policy. Why not? If this really is a decision that will mean fewer people benefit from NHS treatment, more will die, and more money will be spent to achieve this worse outcome, then surely we should know who made it. Isn't it time ministers took responsibility for their decisions?